Hey everyone, you're watching Ash on Comics. My name is Ash, and here's today's comic, Freedom Fighters, #1. Let's see if that'll focus there. It's by Venditti, Burroughs, and some other people who shouldn't be on the cover, because I don't believe inkers and colorists and letterers should be on the cover. If I had it my way, I wouldn't have anyone on the cover, but at least we know pencilers and artists, or pencilers and writers sell books. So this is a 12-issue maxi series by DC, $3.99. It's called Freedom Fighters. Apparently, there's a group of heroes called Freedom Fighters that's like in the past. DC has this massive history and continuity that I am only barely scratching the surface of as a new fan of DC. So every time I think, I'm like, oh, this is something new, like a Challengers the Unknown. It's like, no, that's an old school thing. Challengers are like, oh okay. So apparently, I guess Freedom Fighters has been done before, or these are DC characters are sort of being brought back for a new story. I could be wrong on that. That's just kind of what I'm interpreting. If you know more than I, as always, go into the comments and educate my ass. This is an alternate history book where the Nazis won World War II, and we're fast forwarding to not really today. I'd say, so it's 60 years after World War II. So you're looking at like 2000-ish. So it's a little bit in our past. It's not modern day exactly. But here we go. The comic. Let's see if I can get this just right. All right, see if we got that best. Now, so, by the way, Adam doesn't ruin everything. A lot of his shows are full of bullshit. If you want a show that's like this, go find old, it's not on the air anymore, but Penn and Teller's Bullshit is what Adam ruins everything wishes it was. I've watched a few of his episodes, and I was like, that's bullshit. Yeah, and so I can't watch it anymore because some of this propaganda and it's agenda driven, and Penn and Teller's Bullshit. That's what you want. Anyways, so back to this. There we go. We're sort of 1963. So maybe this present day actually. Okay, I was wrong. So this takes place a couple decades after World War II. In the beginning, and we got this janitor guy like, oh, if I ever catch these bastards who did this, and it's like, defacing the Fuhrer's paint on the wall, and this is in America, and we got this window up here, and a little interesting Easter egg. This is the Texas Book Depository, which is where the famous shooting, the assassination of Kennedy, was performed from. So that window, 1963, right? It's the same time, if you caught the date, right? So, but instead of shooting Kennedy, it's a base for this resistance movement. So, there's a knock at the door. It's like, they don't know the code, blast them. And I like how it's done, this old-timey feel. I like it. Very much feels right for that era. The code is 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. You've got 2 seconds, pal. Speak. Give me liberty or give me death. And so we got Jesse Owens. Yes, the Jesse Owens, Olympic medalist, is the leader of the resistance. We've got some other hero guys behind him. And so the whole concept of this is that Nazis won the war, but of course there's some freedom fighters in America, just like there was in France. When France lost, there was the French underground. So these guys are kind of forms resistance, but they're superheroes, or they're superpowered beings. Now, the reason Germany won the war is because they had superpowered, or metahuman. DC is metahumans, right? So they had their own metahumans. And here they are saying the Pledge of Allegiance. And I was like, holy shit. The Pledge of Allegiance in an American comic book in 2018. Holy shit. SJWs are fucking shitting their pants right now. Like, how this is I can feel the outrage or the American patriotism. They're just like, oh my God, I'm so offended for all the people that come here that aren't. I could see, honestly, two sides of this book or like opinions. I can see people bitching about this book because, oh, it's got Nazis and I'm so sick of the SJWs putting everything's got to be about Nazis. Well, there really were Nazis, and this is an alternate history book about Nazis. So, but I can see that misinterpretation, like the people who actually don't read the book or they don't go see the movie, but they sort of start making prejudicial judgments of it based on just what they hear, what they assume. A lot of assumptions being made about this book. So I'm here to clarify and make sure you don't have any false assumptions. So this, very patriotic. Like, these are Americans, right? And they're doing their underground resistance movement, but unfortunately they've been infiltrated. And by the way, I'm going to be spoiling this book, so if you have any interest in this at all, don't watch any further. Read it for yourself. However, if you're on the fence, then maybe this reaction or this review is going to help you make a decision whether it's a 12-issue series. So spoiling one issue isn't going to spoil the whole thing for you. And there's really not a ton that happens to be like, oh my God. But, if you're like me, I don't like anything spoiled. I want to enjoy every single moment of it. And so this is a recommend, right? It's not a super high recommend, but it's a good book. And if it's a good recommend if this whole concept interests you. If you like the idea of false or, alternate history, Nazis winning the war, like if you are into that concept, and if you're into a classic type hero, like old schooly heroes that are like more like Watchmen stylish heroes, this might be for you. If none of that interests you, this is a very mild recommend because it's still good. Venditti is a great writer. He's one of the best, and he knows what he's doing. He writes a solid book. So I'm just going to blast through here. So what happens is you can see in the background, the American flag starts mutating in a hand, and they're talking about what they're going to do with their plan. Uncle Sam is counting on us, and then we should make sure you're stopped, Ja. Plastic Men. Get it? Plastic Men. Now, at first I was like, I don't think plastic was around in World War II. Like, I don't... But then, now it's 1963. Yeah, plastic was... we went to space. So, at first I was like, come on. Like, okay, but I'm okay. So, they got Plastic Men. So, we know there's more than one because it's men. And they've invaded, and it's a really great way to be hidden. It's like, oh shit, shoot them, and it's a very much I love dystopian storylines and resistance movements. I always really wanted to see the story of John Connor building the resistance of Terminator. The story that Reese tells Sarah under the bridge in the first movie, and he talks a little bit about how it formed and. The Terminator breaks into the resistance group and is killing everyone. And I was like, man, I want to see a whole movie on that. Unfortunately, we'll probably never get to. But I love stories like that. And this story, even though it's in the 60s, not in the future war with machines, it had that same feel. They're broken in, and this thing's super powered. And it's just wasting people. And it's like, shoot them, get help, run, everywhere, get. And... So there's these wrapping people up, and it's interesting to see. I've never seen a character with this power, the Plastic Man, Reed Richards archetype, be an evil character. What would a bad person do with these powers? And it's sort of interesting. And he's just wrapping people up, strangling them, squeezing them, and he's got the human bomb here, who apparently he's like, everyone get out! If they make my hands touch, I'll explode. And you can see multiple Plastic Men here, and it's just creepy. Just coming in, arresting everyone or killing them. And it's like, they call them Nazis. And that's really that's the one big thing that bugs me through the whole book. Just call them Nazis, right? Like, I understand for the German release of this book, you can't do that because it's illegal. It's illegal in Germany to have Nazi imagery or anything like that. Like, you will go to jail. So I find that ironic that they have fascist laws like that in Germany because of they're trying to be anti-fascist. And it's just, freedom is the only way. Okay, you can't fight fascism with fascism. You haven't won anything, Rotzi. Uncle Sam is an idea stronger than any of you. As long as people believe in what America stands for, he'll never die. Uncle Sam is alone now? We will find him. I just love that Vendetti has no problem like playing the stereotype voice. You know, in today's day and age, it's like doing the stereotypical way of speaking, you know, or like talking. If you've ever seen Jerry Lewis do his like Chinese impressions, or, you know, just having that stereotype is so like anti-peace. Like, just, oh, you don't do that. But Vendetti's like, nope, let's go full on. Like, make them be like not just German, but like super stereotypical German. So 3 days later, they're hung up on a pole, and this guy's shot, and you find out that they don't shoot human bomb because anything that touches his body explodes. So one of the things that they point out in the book at some point, I forget exactly where, but I'll tell you now, is they burned him because fire never actually touches you, right? And I was like, oh, that's really clever. Like, that's true. Like, so I thought that was really cool. So they had to kill him with fire, and that's just terrible. And then here we see Uncle Sam, who is an actual person, not just an idea, is witnessing what's going on, looking at the TVs in a window, because for all you youngsters, that's how it used to be. TVs, shops would sell TVs, and you would see them in the window, and you could see the TVs. That's just, it's just really cool. And so Uncle Sam's like, oh, he's just pained over, right? He's just like the living embodiment of patriotism, American idealism and patriotism. And then the plastic men stumble across him. Hello, Uncle Sam. Hello, Uncle Sam. Hello. No, bastards. You want one last piece of apple pie? Suck. And it's just like, there's something really cheesy about this, but like so kind of cool. Come and get it. I'm kind of giddy. I'm like reading this like an old, you know, school kid probably back in the 60s read comics, and just like, yeah, beat up the Nazis. Venditti kind of really captures that flavor. Wouldn't really work in a modern comic, right? But so you tell this type of story. So now it's 55 years after 1963, which is 2018. And we've got kids outside playing baseball, but no, as the SS come by, and baseball was America's pastime. There are consequences to disobeying the laws. Return home immediately. Now, another thing that I find interesting is that, and correct, is that the Germans in America aren't speaking all crazy stereotype like they were in the past. Right? Because if you're living in America 55 years, a couple generations now go by, you're not going to be all crazy German accent, right? You're going to probably speak just English. So I thought that was interesting. Hitler's dead. So we have his son. This is a picture of Hitler, but they're talking about how, who would have believed that Hitler's son would be doing so good? They're like, so they're setting that page. And then we get, boom, a big explosion. What's going on? Dead Nazis. Dead Razzies. Razzies. So silly. I don't know why DC did that. That bugs me. So it's like, boom. The kids are like, what was going on? And then the ball's like, boom. It's like, oh. because like earlier when the SS came, you know, the kids are all blaming the new kid. They're like, oh man, we lost our ball. We knew we shouldn't have let the new kid play. How are we going to get our ball back? And so that was like a little poignant scene, like, there's your ball. Then we see a fireman running away from the crime. Hail this, Rotsies. Flipping him off. And it's like, you killed the general. He was the last executioner alive from the Red Friday massacre. But you killed him. Forget that garbage the teachers feed you kids. America isn't dead. Neither is Uncle Sam. He's just been sleeping a while. We're going to wake him together. So this is a part that was the freedom fighters are bringing America back. And so now we've got the new freedom fighters. Don't really have an explanation of where they're from, but you can guess that they're probably progeny, right? It's the typical comic way. Now, one thing that was a little bit hard for me was like, I was like thinking about these kids, and I'm like, 55 years after America was conquered, that's like 2 generations at least. These kids would be so indoctrinated into the German way of life. Like, I don't see, they wouldn't have any knowledge of what it was like to be American. That's like kind of the problem that we're facing today in modern society. Is it's very hard to preach about American exceptionalism and American ideals and everything like that, because the modern generation, we've kind of like 2 generations in, that just don't understand. They've been just so, with all the political correctness and the indoctrination of public schooling, and just there's no real understanding of why American ideals are great, right? Many schools don't even say like the Pledge of Allegiance anymore. It's almost like becoming anti-American. There's so much propaganda preached at our kids, and that's what gets us SJWs, because they grow up believing what, the world is what they understand. So it's very difficult to break someone's paradigm that way. It's not like, here we have these older folks who were around during the time before America, so they know they can compare and contrast. They have something there's a relation they can understand. The kids don't have anything else to relate it to. That's like, this is just the way things are supposed to be. So it's hard, I think it'd be very difficult to convince anyone 55 years later. I mean, hell, are these people even that old? Like, anyone who's younger than 60 to understand, because that's all they've ever known. And of course, the textbooks, all the media, the Germans would be controlling this. There'd be almost no information. So most of America would just be like, no, this is the way that it is. So they show up, and we find out the freedom fighters. I won't spoil who those characters are. I'll let you read. There's no purpose. That doesn't serve anything to review. But at the very end, see a giant robot show up, and my inner child started feeling giddy, and I got a big grin on my face, because my favorite comic of all time, like comic series, is the X-Men. I grew up reading X-Men. I have almost the entire Chris Claremont run. I love the X-Men very much, and I told you earlier how much I like Resistance style stories and all that stuff. So just take a wild guess what my favorite X-Men storyline is. You guessed it. It's Days of Future Past, and all of the related ones later. Like when I first started getting into X-Men in the early days, when Rachel Summers comes around in like the early 200s, and then she's like from that future. All those storylines, I am like just all over like white on rice, and that's not racist to say. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, it's a Sentinel. Badass. Extermination in progress. Hail Hitler. I was just like, oh my God, this last page is awesome. Look at this page. This last page is, this should have been the cover. This is awesome. Oh, so. And then we got a little bit of background of the characters, which I found interesting. This actually tells who those 4 characters are, the new ones that I didn't tell you about, because the book doesn't really go into much on that. It just really wants to set the stage, and I think it does a job very well. First issue, just set the stage. What are we looking at? What are we going to expect? Who are our characters? This does it. The art is not my favorite kind of style aesthetically, but it's very competent. Way better if you... I don't know which I'm posting first, Livewire or this, but I did a review on Livewire. And if you haven't watched my Livewire review, well, spoilers, this is way better than that. So I'm happy, I'm satisfied, and I think it works too in this setting that, you know, this is kind of, even though it's 2018, it's trying to feel like a throwback. So I'm happy with this. I liked what I read. That last page is my favorite. Like I said, it's just like, I was like, oh yeah, it's on. Oh, so this is a recommend. If you like this style of story, alternate future, if you like resistance style stories or whatever, I think you should pick this up. It's 12 issues, not a major commitment. If that sort of story is not necessarily something you gravitate to out of the norm, then maybe take a pass on this. I recommend, I'm not recommending you pass on it, but I can understand if you do. I'm not going to try to push you. But if you do like, this concept, then it's well done. Venditti's one of the better writers. You are getting a solid book. There's no trace of SJWism at all. If you think like, oh, they're doing a book about it's not. This is actual Nazis, not modern ghost Nazis, Trump Nazis that don't exist. This is the real, even though they're called Razzies, this is the real deal Nazis. So I enjoy this book. I'm going to keep getting it and see where it goes. I think it's going to be a good story. Like I said, take a look at this name, Venditti. He's doing Hawkman and Damage right now. He is one of the best at DC. And I think this book shows great promise. And if you're still on the fence, stay tuned next month. I will tell you how number 2 is. Thanks for watching.